Hello all and welcome to today's very special, very exciting set of launches. Today we are going to be looking at our brand new Kaleidoscope collection, our Cosmos collection, our matte and layering collection, our sentiment collection and 6 brand new colours in our Gemstones glitter texture paste. Now if you haven't already, it might be time to grab some refreshments and a pen and paper and hunker down for a bit of a marathon because we've got loads of products to share with you and lots of samples too. Hopefully we're going to inspire you with this collection and you're going to fall in love with it just as much as we have. Now if you do and you would like to track down some of these goodies, pop onto our website. It's www.jamierodgerscrafts.com and on there you'll find a list of all of our fantastic stockists. Now at the moment our stockists are just based here in the UK, but we are looking to expand that and we will be bringing you news on that very shortly. Until then, a lot of our stockists do ship worldwide, so check them out and have a little look and see if they can send them to you anywhere in the world. I know lots of them do offer that service. Now where to begin? There's so much to get through, but I think we should start off with the Cosmos collection. So let's dive on in and have a little look at that set, shall we? Now this set really starts off for me with our Cosmos Floral Background Die. Now this one is a huge die, and I do mean huge. The set is about 7 inches approximately in both directions. And with this, we've got our scallop square, our plain square, and our filigree square. Now we've broke them down into 3 dies for you because what that gives you is the ultimate amount of options. And by this what I mean is the filigree panel doesn't have a blade or a die running around the edge of it, so it can cut in and it can stay in your cardstock. If you wish to trim it out, then you've got your flat edge or you've got your scalloped edge. And this gives you so many options. So for a start off, if you wish to, you could cut it into the front of your card blank. So this one is a store-bought 8x8 card that I've chose to cut this into. And it just means I've got this incredibly filigree window that I've created without much fuss or hassle. I've then got my plain square or my scallop square that I can choose to cut these out with instead if I want to have them as a freestanding item. I've also then got them as their separate dies that can be matte and layered underneath this panel if I choose to. So again, trying to give you as many options and ways in which you can use this collection. Whenever we bring you large format products like this, whether it's our stencils or our dies like this time, I always like to remind you that we do this for a reason, and we do it so that you can choose what areas you wish to work with. I know a lot of people don't make as larger cards as I like to, but if we bring you a large background, you can choose to focus in and trim out smaller areas of it. If we bring you a small die background, you've got to try and repeat that and build that out to be a larger background if you choose to have it as so. It also means that if it was just one size, you're only ever going to have that chunk of the pattern. Where with this, we can give you a larger format that you could then use in smaller pieces running through your albums, your flick books, your cards, your ATCs, your different bits like that, and know that it doesn't get too repetitive too quickly. So it just gives you more options. Now with this die set, not only does it cut, it also debosses loads of beautiful lines onto each of the petals so that you've got the ability to bring in your inks and your different polishes and bits and highlight that texture to create some really stunning effects between the top of the die cut and the base of the die cut. Now not only do we stop there with this collection, we also bring you the Cosmos Flower Die. Now this is one die that's going to go through your machine and cut out all of these different pieces, and just like the background, they're going to deboss for you this beautiful sort of radiance onto each of the petals. On top of that, these 3 flowers match up perfectly with the large flowers found throughout the background. So if you wish to 3D these ones on top of here, you absolutely can do, and they match decor for decor, so that you can just stick them on flat if you wish to, or build them up and create some really stunning effects. On top of that, this set has these 4 little components down here that can be the middles to your flowers, whether that's in the individual set or building up on top of the Cosmos floral panel. On top of that, we've also give you a larger flower. So if you do wish to just use this set on its own, or you wish to use this as a background, but cut out and layer on one large flower, you can do, and it's all going to coordinate for you. Then on top of that, we've also bought you the Cosmos Leaves set. Now again, one die set, going to go through your machine, cut out all of these components for you. You've got 4 different pieces, the 2 large sort of foliage pieces and the 2 smaller pieces. And these again match design-wise the ones found in the background of our panel. So if you wish to use this throughout different pages of your albums, or maybe you wish to make this the sides of your boxes, and then put big flowers on the top of your boxes, everything's going to coordinate together. It's all going to match in. And to me, that was really important to break this down into different sets for you but actually have the ability to bring them all together and know it's going to coordinate effortlessly. This is actually a little board showing you how your foliage is going to cut out, and you can see just how beautiful and delicate this one is. It's such a pretty set. Then to complete our Cosmos set, we bring in our stencils. Now I'm going to open these because seeing them in the packet and actually seeing them in reality is 2 very different things. Now with our Cosmos layering backgrounds stencils, that's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? There's a lot going on here. Let's just pop this pack to one side for the second. We have given you, and we call this a layering set, but we've given you what's slightly different. Normally when we talk about a layering set of stencils, it means that you get one picture and it's broke down into different components and you build them up and you've got basically the positive version of it. With these stencils, we decided to do something slightly different. We've given you the positive and the negative. Now you can still layer them, they still work together brilliantly, but it means that they work in a slightly different way. So first off, we have this panel for you. Now this is exactly the same as the die. So when this one is used, whether you choose to ink it or use it with texture paste or different mediums, you're going to end up very much with the same style as what the cut is. So it works in the same way, but again, giving you stencil ability. Slightly or quite a lot thicker than your traditional ability that you would have with a die cut. So when we're brushing against it, we don't have to worry about bits moving like you would a die. If you want to bring moisture to it with our Elite Misters or our inks or any of them other items, you absolutely can do. It's also cut from really thick mylar. This is 350, if I remember rightly, grade mylar. So when it goes through and actually embosses in your machine with a rubber mat, you're going to get such great prominence to your embossing. So it just gives you a different option. Then on top of that, we've also given you what I would refer to as the other side, the positive or the negative, depending on how you look at it. Now this one is great. Not only does it match up with the stencil, so if you wish to, you can go in, once you've done this part, you've inked it, you've coloured it, you can then bring this stencil in, lay that over the top and colour the flowers that were left plain originally. It also means that you can bring this in over the top of, and I never know which direction this is, so give me a sec as we play matchy matchy, but I'll get there in a second, I promise. But somewhere, this is never easy for me. I always panic when I try and do this. It's here somewhere. There we are. So it matches up perfectly with your die cut as well. So that means that you can cut your die, you can go in and you can colour over the tops of the flowers really easily, leaving all that filigree work left behind in the colour of your cardstock. So it just gives you more options in how you can bring in and play. We also have for you the negative of such, of the positive or the negative stencil, which are all of these pieces which are cut out when we cut the stencils. Now a lot of companies don't always give you these bits, but to me these are really handy because you might choose to pop these onto your plates, send them through your die cut machines with your rubber mats, with your foam mats, and emboss them to make random backgrounds. And I'll show you a sample of that shortly when I can find it, because I've got it here somewhere and I don't know where I've put it, but I promise that will turn up at some point. It also means you can bring these in and you can lay them again over the tops of your backgrounds if you wish to, and then you might wish to bring in your misters or your different inks and spray them over the top. So this time we're protecting the flowers, we're masking them off, colouring everything else. So it just gives you as much versatility as we possibly can do between working with our stencils and our die sets to make some really unique and cool backgrounds and styles and designs. And then of course you can choose to build up on top of this lot with your flowers if you wish to, or your leaves, or your different elements. So that's your Cosmos Layers stencil set, completing out our Cosmos family. Now I've got lots of samples to share with you from this collection, but we're going to come back to those shortly because I want to show you all of the different components. Then I promise we'll come back and look at lots of inspiration. So that's just one collection we're launching today. Then we move on and we've got for you the Kaleidoscope Segments collection. This is a die and a half. There are 21 dies in this set, giving you so much versatility. We have got for you our outline scallop circle. We then have for you 8 filigree panels, 8 outside segments, and 4 corners. When we show you this on board form, it might just explain slightly how many options you've got. So your corners, which you can see here, we've got our flower corner. We have got for you our foliage corner. We have got for you our cog corner. And we have got for you our heart corner. Now those are all matching with the designs found within the segments. And the reason we broke the dies down into so many pieces is you've got your scallop circle to build up on top of. You've then got your in-cuts, your sort of filigree panels, as like I like to refer to them as. Now those without the outside edges can be cut into your card and they're going to stay there. Your outside edges can be used on their own. So maybe you wish to cut all the segments out like I have here, but you wish to stamp on top of them or emboss them or use them with a stencil or add texture paste to them or journal on them or cut your photos out with them and then bring back your photos together in these segments. There's all them different options you can do because you've got them separate edges. If you team the edges together with the filigree panels, then of course you can cut them out together and you can create these sections that can then be built back together in whichever formation you would like to. So you might choose to use 8 hearts together, 8 butterflies together, maybe 2 stripes, 2 dots, 2 stars, 2 hearts. It's up to you, but build up your 8 sections in whichever format you would like to make some really cool backgrounds. Now my idea with this set was really about trying to bring you value for money. I wanted to bring you a die set, a background set as such, that I genuinely feel you could use throughout the whole year. You've got your masculine cards, you've got your Easter cards, you've got your flower cards, you've got your Mother's Day cards, you've got your Valentine's cards, your happy anniversary cards, your with love cards, your flower cards, your happy New Year's, your Christmas cards, your birthday cards, your floral cards. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them sets that I can't actually think of an occasion I'm going to make a card for that I couldn't hook this one out and pick out a section and work with. And that's genuinely what I wanted to bring you. A one-stop shop for every crafty project you're going to be making for this year, the next year, and maybe the year after, and so on and so forth. Between your 8 different sections, you've got a whole host of options. Team that with your corners, team that with your circle, think about that with your segments on their own, think about your cutting ability. The options really are relatively endless. Mathematically, I'd hate to imagine just how many choices you've got that you could be creating with this one set alone. But it doesn't end there. We move on to a Kaleidoscope Segments stencil set. Now I'm going to bring this in for you. I'm going to open this one out because again, I want you to see all of the different components you're receiving within this set. Now let's have a little look here. We have got for you 8 sections. That's the start off to this one. Now these 8 sections are exactly the same sections as you are going to find throughout your die set. They're exactly the same size as you're going to find throughout your die set. So you can match these up in many different ways to create many different styles. But it's more than just that. It's not about giving you these 8 pieces, which of course open up the world of inking, distressing, blending, texture paste, misters, all of them different bits that you can be working with on top of, again, those plain sections, or on top of your background, or of course on top of your card. It's also about this part, which is your stencil, your guide, your everything when it comes back to putting these pieces into place and building up your sections. Now you might not be quite as wonky-eyed as I am, and you might find placing 8 sections together equally spaced really, really easy. I didn't. It was something I struggled with. And our lovely Lynn on our design team said, well, why don't we do a stencil to do that? And I said, that's a very good idea. And then here we have our incredible stencil, just for that. But we didn't want to give you just for that. We wanted to give you more, hence why you've got the sections, hence why you've got the same corner designs cut into it, so you can use those as well. But when you do bring in your dies and you want to start placing these back together, so you've done your cuts, you've got your cutouts, and you want to start bringing them back in, if you put your circle, if that's what you wish to, or pop this onto the front of your card and tape it in place, you can start bringing your sections in whichever format they are, whether they're the stencil, the die, the cutout. you can start placing them back in place and they're going to be perfectly spaced because of that guide. You can then lift the guide away with no fear that you're going to have any unequal areas. The other bit to note with our stencil is that the scallop circle is actually etched into the edge of our stencil. And so once you've cut this out and you've got it as a solid, you bring that in, you place it over the top, you put a bit of tape on it, you flip this over, and you know that you are working perfectly within the center of that circle. So again, when it comes to matching up your pieces and putting them in place, you know they're going to coordinate to where they need to be, and you're working perfectly in the center of the circle that you've already cut. We're just trying to give you as many guides and ways we can to make working with these products so easy that your creativity finds no limits, and you're going to go off on so many different tangents, being so creative between the stencils and the dies. And of course, we haven't even touched on other items and ways in which we can be using our stencils. So let's just pop these out of the way for a second. I'm trying to stay tidy because I know how much I've got to show you in this video, and I want you to see it all clearly and easily. With your stencils, we can of course emboss these. So just like we was talking about with our last one, our Cosmos set, these two can be run through your machine with a rubber mat or a foam mat and embossed. Now you might wish to take your circle, cut out that scalloped one, emboss this on top of it, and then build up on top of that. To me, this is more important when we talk about those 8 sections. You've got your 8 separate sections. You've got the ability to cut these sections out just as sections on their own. So cut them first, pop them through your machine with your stencil on top. This is the effect you're going to achieve. Now again, you could add inks to these, you could bring in pastes, you could bring in gilding waxes, you could build up your Kaleidoscope segment sections with this ability on top of them. So you can emboss them, you can ink them, you can die cut them. Between these, you've got so many options. Now a little tip for you, because we're not demoing on this video today, we're just talking to you about all the different items, showing you lots of samples. So I want to give you as many tips as I can as we go through. If you're going to be using these with our Gemstones texture paste or inks, different mediums like that, a little tip for you is take your low tack masking tape and wrap it around the edges of your stencil. That way, when you come to put your texture paste through, you've got something to hold on to while you're doing your paste. It also means when you come to take this away from your section, because I am a bit wonky and I am a bit messy, before I come up with doing that idea, I was finding when I removed them, I'd inevitably got a little bit of ink or a little bit of texture paste running down the side of my segment. Now we can cover it, we can remove it, it's not the end of the world. But if we don't have to, because we can mask it off clearer to begin with, it's a little tip that can really help. Now I've left mine on here, I've washed mine, I've used them multiple times, but if I want to at any point, I can remove them. But it's just a really good guide, a little hint to make that even easier for you. And it's just standard low tack tape. So we've introduced you already to our Cosmos set and of course our Kaleidoscope set. So let's move on and share with you our incredible texture paste, because we've just mentioned it, we've spoke about it with our stencils. Let's bring in our 6 new shades. Now these are absolutely glorious. We had 6 colours that we brought out for you in June for Christmas as such, crafting for Christmas, and in that collection is black, white, silver, gold, red and green. I've got it, I'd never remember them, but there are your 6. Now, being honest with you, we are just waiting for the white one to return back in stock at the time of filming this video, but it is on order and it is heading our way. Something you're going to notice here at Jmaie Rodgers Crafts is we don't like to see a product come to the end of its life. If we can reorder it and reorder it and reorder it, we absolutely will do. And that's because we know you're going to come to collections later down the line, fall in love with them and want to go back and collect the previous releases. And we know that's happening, we're seeing that already. So if we can keep the products available for you as long as we possibly can, we absolutely will do. And again, it's one of those that we know you're going to fall in love with them. And I talk of it from experience with this because I've seen how many people have fallen in love with our Gemstones texture paste from the first release and have automatically been wanting and asking for brand new shades. Now with this, what we have is a clear medium with our glitter actually added to it for you ready, so that you can apply it with through a stencil or brush it onto the edges of your flowers and create some lovely effects. It's also water-based. So it means that we can hook some out, we can mix it with water, we can turn it more into a glittery glaze, we can use it to make backgrounds, we can add it over the top of coloured cardstock to make some really lovely effects that way. It also means that we can add more colour to them and colour that clear medium. For instance, things like our Elite Misters, and I'll show you a sample of this when we get on to playing with the samples, but if you bring in your Elite Misters, you hook a little bit of this out and you pump a couple of sprays of the Elite Mister, mix that together, it will colour that clear medium to a new shade, so you'll end up with a contrast between what was clear medium and what is now your glitter, giving you some really unique two-tone effects for your brand new Gemstones glitter texture paste. Now when we bring these in board form, let's have a little look. This one is our pink sapphire. This is what it's going to achieve when we bring this over the Cosmos stencil, to give you a slight idea. This one here is our Larry Marr. I absolutely love this. It's such a cool periwinkle shade. Then we move on and we have got for you Violet Sapphire. It's hard to pick a favourite. If you're sat there thinking, well, that's it, I need all three of them already, I don't blame you. It's virtually impossible for me to pick favourites. Then we've got Aquamarine. How gorgeous is this? Another thing to mention as well, and we're talking about mixing and we're talking about doing different things, because of glitter is a solid particle. If you bring 2 or 3 or 4 shades together, mix them up together, the glitter particle can't be coloured. It is its own entity, it's its own thing. It's not going to absorb colour from another medium. You know, maybe alcohol inks or bits like that, if you was to try mixing that, it might go and colour them. But other glitter certainly can't colour the original colour of glitter. So if you mix 2 colours together, again, you're going to end up with a really cool two-tone effect, or more colours. And I'll show you that again with our samples, I promise. Then we've got Amethyst for you. Beautiful, rich purple. And then topping off our set of 6, we have got for you Rose Quartz. Beautiful, coppery rose gold shade. Very, very Moorish, very, very vintage, very, very lovely. Again, how you're going to choose, I've got no idea, but all 6 are now available for you. Then we'll go on to our next release. So I mentioned that we've got more to share with you. So let's have a dig in and look at our new Sentiment collection. Now our Sentiment collection is absolutely amazing in my opinion. I'm hoping you're going to agree with me here. What we've done for you is we've bought you 5 sentiments to begin with and 5 layering sets of panels. There's going to be another 15 of these coming out in the next few months. And I tell you that at this stage because it's all going to be interchangeable. So between your different layers and your different sentiments, you're going to be able to mix and match. And we start off with these 5 with that in mind. So we've got for you Happy Birthday, Thinking of You, Happy Christmas, Happy Halloween, and Congratulations. When we look at these in board form, it shows you a little bit more about them. So you've got your sentiment, you've got your 2 levels of layering panel, bringing them all together, this is the effect you can create. The Congratulations one also has some lovely debossed work running around the banner as well, that looks really lovely and could of course be highlighted. The Thinking of You has got debossed sections for like little rivets on the edges of the panel. The speech bubble style of Happy Christmas is really lovely. And of course, we've got the flag styling going through with the Happy Birthday. Now, these really are an interchangeable set that you're going to have a lot of fun playing with and mixing and matching between them. And I say this because it's like, for instance, I know I might not use the phrasing Happy Halloween quite as much as I'm going to use Happy Birthday, but I really love the panels that come with a Happy Halloween. And I think you'll spot through my examples, this is probably the most used panels that I've played with. But I'm sure you're going to have a favourite from these 5, and knowing that another 15 are coming your way shortly, giving you even more interchangeability and flexibility to get creative. I have a feeling you're going to really enjoy having those in your stash. Then we move on to our last release. We've done our Gemstones texture base, we've done our sentiments, we've had a little look at the Kaleidoscope collection, and of course we've looked at the Cosmos set. This isn't the end. The last bit I'm going to bring you is probably our biggest, most impressive so far. This is our Mats and Layers collection. In this collection, we have for you 5 brand new square dies. Now you might wonder, why are we bringing out 5 different square dies all at one time? There's a jolly good reason for this. This is a completely interchangeable collection. Now you can collect them, of course, at your own rate if that's something you'd like to do, but the more you get hold of, the more options you have. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail. In our plain squares, we have 24 dies, and this literally is as many dies as we can physically fit into the set side by side. Once cut together, they're about 1/2 centimetre in between them, but of course you can choose where you wish to cut by how many lines to create different styles of frames and backgrounds and mats and layers. Then we have for you our first 2 filigree edges. So our first one is our fluted squares. I love this, very Victorian style edging. Goes in my mind very well with those purples texture paste we were looking through and our Happy Halloween, maybe teamed with the flowers. I know Ian's done an example like that, I'll share with you soon. Very, very vintage, very, very cool, very, very gothic in my mind. Then we have for you the postage squares. So another 11 dies running through these ones, giving you lots and lots of options, as many options as we could physically fit into the set. Bearing in mind, we want that interchangeability between the sets, and I'll show you that in just a second. Then we have, and this is where we really up the ante, decal edge and stitch squares, and scalloped edge and pierced squares. Now, although they're a double-barreled name as such, they're actually 2 separate entities. In each set, there are 22 dies, so 22 in this one, 22 in this one. But they're broke down. You've got 11 scalloped edges in this one, and 11 pierced detail line squares. Now what that means is that the lines are separate from the scalloped edges. And this just gives you more freedom. It means you could take these pierced edges and you could put them into your postage squares, you could put them into your fluted squares, you could put them into your plain squares, or you could forget all of these squares and you could cut these or pierce them, I suppose, actually into your card blanks. So if you've got store-bought card blanks and you want to jazz them up without die cutting them away, add this on and add a pierced detailing running all the way around the edge of that square. It's a game changer. They look incredible, they look expensive, they look luxury, and it gives you that ability to do that either with a pierced element from this set or the stitched element from in with the deckled edge. So deckled edged or scalloped edge are the ones that you need to get hold of those extra edges. And then your interchangeability really kicks up a gear because you've got all 5 sets that you can interchange between. Now, when we bring those in die form, and I'm going to do this for you on a little board here to give you a little idea. I've gone ahead and I've picked a couple already. So this is the stitched square that comes within the decal edge squares. This is one of our plain squares. So straight away I know if I cut that on its own, it's going to stay in the cardstock. We're going to have that lovely stitch detail added into the card. If I bring in this plain square, that then of course is going to cut me a window in the middle of there. Great if I want to add a photo behind it or something else. But if I want to trim it out, I could bring in, let's say, this lovely scallop square and create this frame going on with this stitch detailing in it. I might prefer to add in more details. I might want to go for several pierced frames. I might want to take out that one that we've added in already of the stitch detailing and just have 3 pierced lines running around the outside. Or I might want to bring in more piercing and add that around this edge. Do you see where I'm going with this? It gives you as many physical options as we can. And then when you go down to the plain squares, because it's not only about cutting them out, as in cutting them out together, it's about being able to build them up as well. So maybe you wish to cut out, I think it's this one we're going to go for, or no, next size down maybe, let's go down a couple. This is the joy of having so many options. Maybe if we're looking at this square, I might do better to take it to the other one actually. If we wanted to add on a mat and layer, we can pick, oh yeah, no, I've got the right one. Let's bring that off. I don't think you're going to see that very clearly. Let's go down to these. So many dies to share with you. If you wish to mat and layer, so you're going to cut your scallop square and then you wish to place on top your plain square, you're going to find that you've got very close options to do that with. So again, you might want to go scalloped, you might want to go plain, you might then go, well actually we want to bring in a fluted edge. So let's see, are we anywhere near with this guess? Oh, next one down. There we go. We could pop that into the middle of that one. We could start building up. We could then bring in our stitch square. We could add that into that panel. I'm just waffling here, but hopefully you're starting to see why having 5 different options to interchange between opens up so many ways in which you're going to be able to work with them and get creative. Now we've done a very small little board here. This is a silly little board really, but it gives you a couple of options, just showing you how you can add your stitches into the center of your frames instead of just the edges, how you can pick to bring in your fluted edges to the middle as well as the outside, how you can bring in the smaller ones and turn them to diamonds, how you can take on your pierced element, place that in on an angle or like a diamond going on here, or maybe you want to do the pierced and the stitch together. Maybe you just want to frame around the middle. Maybe you want that scalloped middle, but you want a deckled edge. Do you just see where we're going? Endless, endless, endless options, all achievable with these 5 sets. Now this is again the beginning of a collection, like when we spoke about our sentiments and I said to you how they were the first 5 and there was 15 more to come. This is the first 5, there's a lot more to come. Next up, I don't know what order they're going to be in, but coming soon you will have circles, you will have ovals, you will have rectangles in exactly the same patterns, in exactly the same pierced and stitch detailings, in the same way. So again, you're going to have the stitch with the decal, you'll have the pierced with the scallop, that you can interchange, you can build together, you can bring together. Again, whether that's cutting out, whether that's just adding in a stitch circle to a square cut, whether that's bringing in a rectangle and cutting out 2 or 3 times from a square, maybe that's putting a square on as a diamond in the middle of an oval. The choices will be yours, but the library is just opening. There's going to be a lot more options, a lot more versatility. That's why as we go through the coming months and release the other options. But the first 5 is the place to start. And that, of course, is with our most essential shape we felt, which is our square. Then from there, we can build up and bring you all of the other goodies. So if you're not already slightly mind blown between the layers, between the cosmos, between the kaleidoscope, between the sentiments and the gemstones, shall we show you some samples? Shall we? I know we're half hour in and we haven't even shown you any samples. Let's show you some samples and really show you what could be achieved with these collections. And I'll try and get through as many as I can without sending you to sleep. So let's delve in and start having a little look, shall we? So we're going to start off with our lovely Cosmos background panel. We'll try and do this in the same order as what we show you the collections. So straight away, first card in, very simple, very easy. Cut the Cosmos background, placed it down onto a white piece of pearl card. So I've cut from pearl card, I've stuck onto pearl card, I've coloured in with alcohol markers really easily to give some shade in. I've then cut out the middle with one of our plain squares, sunk that into the centre. I've cut a frame to go around the outside with the plain squares, so that's a ½ centimetre frame, and then just foam padded this top one on to create a drop shadow. Then we've cut this one into the front of the actual card. I've added some blue card onto the inside. This is our seashell blue card. And I've built up on the top using our decal edge or fluted edge squares, sorry, with the pierced detail that you're going to find within the scallop squares. Added on one of the plain squares to the top of that and the happy birthday sentiment onto the top of that. Bringing in another one here, and again, very similar to the last one, playing around with our squares on the top using the scallop squares with the pierced detailings on these 2 layers, bringing those scallops into the under layers as well so everything coordinates together. Bringing the Cosmos panel in and misting it with our Seashell Blue Elite Mister so it coordinates with the colours below as well. Then moving on to our next one, bringing in our panel, cutting it from our Decadent Ivory cardstock, layering that on top of our Seashell Blue, adding in more squares below with our plain squares before moving on to our scallop square and our fluted edge square. On the top, building up our Cosmos flower and adding on our congratulations sentiment on top of the Thinking of You banner. Then moving on, we've got another white cut where I've taken it and I've placed it onto some white card, glued them together and then cut them out with a postage stamp edge set of squares. Again, another map below using those same edged squares, but this time adding in 2 lines with the pierced details from the scallop squares, adding on the foliage and the flowers, bringing in the congratulations and the happy Halloween bar. Moving on to another option for you. So again, cutting from white, sticking white on top of white, bringing in our elephant grey ink pad and rubbing that over the top. So we highlight the top cut, showing off that debossed detailing running through each of the flowers, slightly toning down the white below, then die cutting with the Happy Halloween sentiment panels to create a double frame, adding in a happy birthday below that, a little bit of foliage and our Cosmos flower to finish that one off. Then one done here by Lynn. Lynn's actually taken the cut it into the front of her card as such, or cut out the aperture, sorry, then laid in the cut with some acetate to give it some strength. She's added the flowers onto the back as flat, which is lovely, so you can see that they can just be added flat if you prefer. And then on the front, she's chose to layer them up and added in a little happy birthday on a jaunty angle. Again, pierced detailing running around the edge with a scallop square running around the outside of that to create a really cool window effect card. Then moving on to another one from me, this time I've taken the flowers and the backing panel, layered them together and built them up, using the placement shown by the flowers below to marry up and match up and build up my flowers on top with the little happy birthday, again in the happy Halloween bar on the base. Another one here where I've coloured it in with alcohol markers, so trimmed it out, coloured it in with alcohol markers, layered it onto some white card, used my plain squares to cut some more layers from Seashell Blue card and Night Sky Navy, brought in the little bar here from the Happy Birthday set but added on the congratulations sentiment instead. Then another one similar to that one but just changing the colours, again coloured with alcohol markers but brought in and added onto the card on top of some Decadent Ivory. This time I've used the Thinking of You inside the Thinking of You banner. Then another idea is to cut from black card, layer on black card, but I've coloured in with some metallic markers to get this really lovely shimmer and sheen, added on the Thinking of You inside the Happy Birthday banner. Then this is what I meant earlier when we spoke about large format dies being able to be trimmed down to smaller panels. So this time I've taken a lovely panel, but I've cut it out using a circle die and trimmed it down. I've then used the scallop circle, which comes within the Kaleidoscope die set, as my mat and layer to that, and I've added in the flowers from the corner dies, which again come within the Kaleidoscope set, and added on a couple of butterflies. You'll also spot the pierced detailing running through on this layer from the scallop squares and of course our scallop squares to boot. So it's all again bringing together from all the different parts of this release but making them work together. Now this one's a silver miracle card cut, very simple to do, but just cut out and foam padded above some black card. But hopefully on this one you're seeing that lovely deboss work that the die is going to do in engraving all of this detail onto your petals. To me this is giving sort of steampunk, maybe Art Deco styling, which I think works really nicely. Another one done by me here, bringing in the Cosmos flowers and layering it on top of the dies, so cutting these from Rose Petal Pink, building them up on top of one of our lovely meadow green die cuts, again teamed with our plain squares and our scallop squares. Happy Birthday on top of the Thinking of You panel. Then another one here showing you how you can trim them down. So this is taking the panel as it is, but trimming it down slightly and then trimming it into 3 different segments. And again, focusing on these, because if you might wish to just be doing these as slimline cards, you might want to do them as DL cards, you might want to create larger cards. It's just showing you how that panel has so much snippability about it. Although we've gone to it being a large format panel, it's not lost its delicate details. So even when we trim it down to small areas, it's still very pretty. It doesn't need to be the whole size to be pretty, to be delicate, to be the front of your card or the front of your project. And again, I mention this because you might want to make this the front of your card and then make that a little insert, make that a bookmark, make that a tag to go on the gift bag. Make that part of a strip on the insert. Make that an element that you're going to use on the scrapbook page to coordinate when you scrapbook the birthday photos. It can run through so many different parts because it can be trimmed down to where you want it to be. Another one here being brought in, coloured in with alcohol markers, heat embossed over the top in clear turf 3 times to give that lovely glossy shimmer, and then congratulations being added on top of the Thinking of You bar. Another one here by Ian, and Ian's actually made his card blank this time using the fluted edge die cut squares, then brought in the scallop squares and the plain square that comes within the Cosmos background, using the Cosmos flowers to build up and adding in the foliage as well, finished off with the Happy Halloween bar and the Happy Halloween sentiment. Another one here done by Lynn, and this is the first time we're getting to see the texture paste being brought into play with the stencils in the background, but the flowers being built up on top. And Lynn's also chose to use the fluted edges to run down her mats here. And you can also see she's been very clever because she's also used the fluted edge on the inside, but used one of the plain squares to trim away and make this pink frame run around the outside. So she's got that pink and Decadent Ivory breaking up, which works really nicely and just gives you a different idea. And then she's layered on here her congratulations element. Then lastly, for this set, at this stage, for the main panel, bringing this card in and showing you again, this time I've done some inking. So I've gone straight in with some green and gone over the foliage. Then I've used the stencil, laid that over the top to protect the foliage and coloured my flowers. I've added a couple of our elegant butterflies on here, one of our happy birthday sentiments on top of our happy Halloween sentiment panels. Stitched stitched detail squares running with our plain squares inside our postage edge squares. So again, showing you 3 different sets there working together to make our frames. Then if that wasn't enough, let's show you a little bit more inspiration, but this time focusing more on our stencils. So a few more to get through with these ones. This time bringing in the positive and the negative of our Cosmos stencils. So this time we have used the texture paste going over the top of the flowers, but we've used the Elite Mister to colour the background. So again, bringing together and creating 2 different effects using 2 different mediums with both the positive and the negative. This one's actually on the wrong pile. I haven't used the stencil on this one, but it shows you again another card, trimming that panel down and using it in more detail to create smaller cards. This one's done by Lynn, where she's brought in the stencil negatives, those separate flowers, embossed them, so randomly placing them out onto a mat, embossing them with a foam mat, then inking over the top of them, matching up the stencil to do so. Then again, bringing in more of our squares to make our frames. This one's done by me, so I've debossed the main stencil, inked over the top with Piggy Pink ink, then added on top the flower stencil and gone over the top of that with our Gemstones texture paste. Matted and layered with our scallop squares and our stitched details from the decals, and then added on our Thinking of You panel inside the Christmas sentiment panel. Bringing in our texture paste. Now this time this is a fun one. When I spoke to you earlier about our texture paste and I said how the colours will not mix, the particles will still stay separate, this is a very good example of this. So this has got 3 or 4 of the shades of texture paste used together over the stencil, and you can start to pick out different elements of different shades, but it works really nicely. And all I did was put down my stencil, placed on dollops of different colours, and then brought them down with a palette knife to actually stay in place. And it's just a really pretty effect. Another one here, building up the 2 different stencils, so embossing the background, inking it with our green ink pad, which is called Chameleon Green, adding on top our rose quartz texture paste with our flower stencil. Another mixture this time, but done on top of black cardstock instead. So again, really playing with them shades, bringing those together, getting creative. Another one here, bringing in both stencils, using the background, then building up on top with the flower one. Again, another little card here focused in from Lynn, showing you how we can really strip this back to smaller elements. It doesn't have to be large format cards. Another one here by me, showing you how we can break this down into segments. It doesn't have to be all one big large card. Even though we're working with the stencils instead of the dies, again, think of breaking it down to smaller areas. And then another one finished off here by Lynn, showing you once again inking the background and then building up on top with our texture paste. This is the lovely Larry Marr, and then she's added on the happy birthday sentiment to the top of this one. And I also like the way Lynn's brought in the flower die cut elements to add on top of the stenciled elements. It just works really nicely, and again, a great way to show you layering between the dies, the stencils, to create some really cool effects. Then we move on. Let's have a little look next at some stencils using our lovely Kaleidoscope set. So this time you've got the Kaleidoscope set being brought in using the foliage panel from that one, adding on the Cosmos flowers and of course our Cosmos leaves, adding in our elegant butterflies and bringing in our circle sentiment of with love to the centre. Now around the edge here, hopefully you can see, we've got the stitch details from the squares, we've got the plain squares, and we've got our lovely fluted edge squares. And this is all built onto a lovely easel card, bringing in our corner elements onto the bases so everything coordinates. And again, seeing that stitch detail running around on the plain squares, and again, seeing that fluted edge running around our actual card. Very easily building up our easel by just scoring at 2 centimetres and 12 centimetres on the same size panel. So I've cut 3 of the same size panel, and for the middle one I've just scored at 2 and 12 and glued that onto here and the front panel onto there to make my sort of Z shape as such. But it creates and stands as the perfect easel that I could then bring in and add on my Kaleidoscope panel to the top of. Moving on to our next one. So this one's again a bit more simple, very easy to do, bringing in the line sets of the kaleidoscope and creating those together, adding in more stitch details, more fluted edges, congratulations, I'm thinking of you bar on the front there. Then bringing in our polka dot element. There's so many of these to share with you. So polka dot element, spacing these on out, adding different colour card underneath each of the sections, adding the happy birthday sentiment section to the middle, the pierced detail running around on the square here, plain squares, stitched being added on the side to our postage stamp, and then again another plain square. So again, showing you this time 4 different elements of our plain squares or our nesting squares coming together to make up this card. Now this is lovely. This one's done by Lynn, and she's sharing with us how we can take the segments and use them to create Christmas trees as well, bringing back our Christmas die sets from our previous releases, and of course adding in our cloud details to the top to make the texture for our moon, and again bringing in our Happy Christmas down the front here, as well as our snowfall stencil, and of course some of our diamond white gemstones texture paste. Then this one's done by Lynn as well. Now this is lovely because this is bringing in lots of our shades of mirror card and building this one up to make this really cool, sparkly, very blingy Christmas card. Another one by Lynn showing you how you can take your sections and actually cut these in to create ghosts instead, which I think worked really nicely. I love how she's rounded the top of these and fluted the bottoms to create this cool ghost effect, adding on little faces and using the waist from the star section to make up her background. Another one here by Ian, showing you a different idea, bringing in lots of the different sections from the kaleidoscope and including these beautiful corners, bringing this one in again to make a Christmas card. Then another idea by Ian is to take these sections and create some Christmas trees from them. And I think this works really nicely too. So again, you could be playing with your different styles of trees or different kaleidoscope panels. Maybe you want to use the dots so they look like lights, or maybe you wish to use the sort of twisted foliage bit and then add gems to it so they look like lights on there. So many different ways you could be dressing that one up. Then Lynn's gone very patriotic, or possibly very sort of Independence Day-y this time, using her Cosmos flowers, the Cosmos leaves, and of course her kaleidoscope along with a happy birthday banner on there. I love this one. I think this is so bright and colourful and so cheery and very, very lovely, and I love those colours together. Another one this time done by Ian, showing you how you can bring in your gilding waxes and your polishes, how you can also make your circular cards. He's cut 2 of the scallop circles, he's put them together, and then that stands. Let me get the bite point for this. It stands beautifully. Where have we got it? I got this working. There we go, perfectly. So it makes a lovely card element, just using those scallop circles, building up on top of those. And I really like how he's gone between the plain segments and the pattern segments, and how he's also trimmed out the cogs from in these to decorate and add on top. I thought that worked very nicely. Another one here from Lynn, showing you how you can go really bright and full on, yo-yo in between the stars and the stripes again, adding on the scallop circle, the scallop squares, the pierced details, the fluted edges, the happy birthday, the congratulations banners, bringing so many of the elements together from this collection, but don't they work so well together? Then I've got piles of these to go through, so I hope you're still with me. I hope I haven't sent you to sleep. Let's show you the next one. This one is done by Lynn again, and I love this. Lynn has used our Kaleidoscope segments to actually make a box. She's filled the box full of Ferrero Rocher, and she's even, oh, they've got a little bit joggled in there, apologies. She's even used the waste from the hearts that she's cut to go all the way around and make this gorgeous detailing on the inside of the lid. You also see those hearts appear around the edges of the box, covering up joints and different parts that needed to be covered, please excuse me. And then in the middle, we've got our Cosmos flower and our Cosmos foliage. So don't just look at these for cards, don't just look at them for pages. Think about your gifts, think about your present giving, think about your home decor and all the different ways in which you could be decorating and making with those too. Then another one here Lynn's done using the stencils as well. So this one's got the lovely little cog element from the corner setting. She's also used that over the middle here of our postage stamp square. She's also used the texture paste over the happy birthday sentiment in the middle there, which works really nicely. One here by me, going for a Halloween theme, making a little wizard's hat again out of our lovely segments and building up our striped segments to make our circle, adding on again our pierced detailing and our flute edge, our plain squares, our pierced detailing and our plain edge as we run through the different layers. It really does all work together, and I can't stress that enough. When you look at these cards and you see how well the Kaleidoscope works in with the Cosmos backgrounds, which works with the nested shapes, this really is a case of the more you collect, the more versatility you're going to have. This one's a really pretty one, working with our rose petal pink and our polar white cardstock, bringing in our elegant butterflies, our cosmos leaves, our cosmos flowers, our thinking of you panel, and of course lots of our different squares again to create some really cool effects. This time we've gone for more of a heart vibe coming in from our kaleidoscope, marrying this all up with our happy birthday element, again playing with our squares as we run through the layers. Now, with our lovely kaleidoscope, you might always imagine you've got to use that as a circle. But again, bringing you our different square edges and frames means that we can frame that off really nicely, focusing on that and create a completely different effect. I've gone for the stars, adding in the Happy Christmas with the Halloween panels, and again, lots of our pierced and plain squares running through that one. This time bringing in some gilding flakes, lovely silver gilding flakes, and placing these through the actual die cuts which I'd added onto a self-adhesive sheet. Added on the Happy Birthday, mixing the banners here between the Thinking of You panel and the Happy Halloween. And then we've got postage stamp squares with stitched edges as well. And then we spoke about this, but of course with our panels being able to be cut in our segments, we don't have to cut them out, we can cut them in. There's no reason why you have to cut them into a circle every time. So think about using these to create banners and borders and using them to create backgrounds as well, to make some really lovely different styles and effects. Working this time with some of our craft paper. I love our craft paper, die cutting that out from our segments and our flowers, and even using that with our banners. Again, using some of our corners, our pierced details, our squares, running through those different elements to make a very shabby chic style card. Another time, this time where I've chose to use our texture paste with our Kaleidoscope stencil and then frame it with our squares, going again through lots of our different versions, from plain to stitch to postage, to create that style of frame, which works really nicely. And then we move on, and we've got another one for you, showing you how the panels don't have to be used to make up circles. You can bring in those panels and create corner elements with them as well. And of course, focusing in more on the smaller squares this time to make up the center to that panel. Then another one here showing you the pieces being used to make different patterns. I really like this idea, and I think it's a really nice way to get more value for money from your Kaleidoscope set. Instead of just going for using them as circles, why not break them down into borders, backgrounds, like I was talking about doing your cuttings. There's no reason why you can't do that with those as well once they've been cut out. Then another cutting idea for you, using the cog element, cutting these into a circle and then framing it and placing it over some mirror cards, so you've got that really lovely shimmery bling coming through from the background. Then just a few more samples to share with you. I know I've got so many, haven't I? I'm so lucky. We've got such an incredible design team that works so hard to bring you so much inspiration and really try and give you a lot of ideas where we can. Now with this card, again, I've gone back to my texture paste. I'm using the texture paste through the stencils on top of the segment die cuts, building that back together, and then framing it using some circle dies, which of course are coming with our scallop squares and our stitched squares, and again adding in our corner details from the Kaleidoscope set, again showing you how everything really works together. This one's bringing in our Cosmos flowers, this time decorated with some of our Gemstones texture paste. You'll also see that working through the background, through the heart stencils over our segments. And I've also diluted down some of our rose quartz Gemstones texture paste and glazed over the top of these, so you've got that really lovely glitz going on even over the top of the hearts. Another one here with our texture paste showing you that lovely Larry Marr, that beautiful periwinkle shade being used over a die cut. This time bringing in our purples and adding that one over the top here. These flowers look so beautiful built up using silver mirror card, because of that embossed detail really makes them look like metal. They're so delicate and pretty. This time bringing in our Gemstones texture paste. This is the rose quartz mixed in with the Night Sky Navy Elite Mister to make our very own unique colour. And I'm going to lift this one up so you can see it slightly better, because when you mix the colours, you really do create some very unique effects. This one's bringing in a couple of our different shades of our Gemstones texture paste and working on our segments. Another one here, brushing the Gemstones texture paste against the tips of the flowers, also using the same colour to work through the segments. Another one here, using the same colour through the segments, onto our With Love section in the middle, then bringing in our Cosmos flower on the side here with our Cosmos leaves. Again, teamed every time with our squares. It really does all work together. There are so many ways in which you're going to be using those. Then a few more samples. I promise I'm coming to the end now. I promise. This one's lovely. So this is our Rose Petal Pink card. I love these flowers. This is taking the rose quartz of the Gemstones texture paste and brushing it down the actual petals and then loading the tips of them with a bit more so they've got more sparkle to them. Using the same colour of the gemstones through the background through the Kaleidoscope Stencils to create the background, bringing in the happy birthday in the middle there, using our scallop circle to create this aperture, using some plain circles which I'm sure are coming, and again creating a drop frame to make that really sort of pop and build up. Then we move on and we've got this one here. So this again is using our lovely Gemstones texture paste to colour our flowers, go through onto the background for our heart, adding in the heart detail within our With Love, and then layering together with our squares. Another one, very similar to these ones, showing you the purple texture paste used through the stencils and on our flowers. And then we go off on a slightly different tangent. Look at this done by Ian. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? So this is the Cosmos flowers brought in and then added on some gilding wax or gilding polish to really make those pop and show you the difference between the emboss and the deboss sections as such on the flowers. He's added in the foliage, the corners, the happy birthday and the thinking of you banner to finish that one off. Now this is different. This is done by me and this is using our brand new pearl card. And I've just done my easel card, very similar to how we spoke about last time, but building this up with a kaleidoscope, building this up with the Cosmos flowers, adding in the foliage, bringing in the thinking of you banner just to finish this off and sticking just to one colour. And that one colour is our ice gold pearl cardstock. Now this is brand new as well. We're launching this in 100 packs and 10 packs. Now, of course, I'm sure you know this, but the more you buy, the better value it is. And these ones, if I remember rightly, recommended retail price is $19.99, I believe. I'm going by memory. I should have looked this up, I apologise. But I believe it's $19.99. So you get 100 sheets of 200 GSM double-sided pearl card for $19.99, making it, of course, around 20 pence a sheet for you, which is a great value pearl card, great for inking on, great for stamping on, great for embossing, great for die cutting. There's loads you're going to do with it. It's a true staple to your crafty collection. And of course, when you look at it being die cut like this, you can see just how beautiful that one's going to be for you. So whether you choose to go for the 100 sheets or the 10 sheets, both options are now available. Then just a couple more samples to whiz past you quickly. This one is more from the foliage set. This one's done by Ian, showing you how you can build up on top of our foiled inkable frames. He's added in our Happy Christmas cut from Miri card, layered that with some of our layers as well from our Happy Christmas sentiment as well, but I found that a really pretty one. I also like the way he's used the circle within the frame as a guide to make that wreath. I thought that was very, very clever. Then another one here from Ian showing you the foliage being brought in from all different places around the edges. Happy birthday in the middle, flowers added in there as well. Another one by Lynn, giving you a little sneaky peek actually at our lovely dot stencils, which will be coming up next month. So a little tease with those. Cosmos flower in the middle, our octagon trellis stencil in the background, again teamed with the squares to create some lovely effects. Lynn had lots of fun playing with the squares like this one here, showing you how you can create little windows with them as well, which I thought worked really nicely. Then adding that foliage into the middle of those. And then another one from Lynn doing a little dinky card, bringing in our Cosmos flower, bringing in those stencils from the Kaleidoscope set on the corners, adding in our happy birthday on the top there, just a really lovely one. And then another one here by Ian, again, another sneaky peek at the dot stencils, I believe, which are coming. And again, corners, foliage, flowers, happy birthday, all teamed up with our lovely nesting squares that work brilliantly with our little sentiment banners as stoppers. So it just all works together, and I'm hopeful that you're starting to see that throughout these collections, just how much you're going to be able to have fun working between all of them and getting creative. Now, I've been waffling on for nearly an hour, and I hope I've covered lots of your questions and shown you lots of samples and inspiration. But if you have any questions at all, I'm here for you. Just pop them in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, all of these items are now available through all Jmaie Rodgers Crafts stockists. And if you haven't found a favourite stockist already, pop onto our website www.jamierodgerscrafts.com and you will find our stockist list. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all our stockists are currently within the UK, but we are going to soon be adding international stockists to that list as well. But in the meantime, a lot of our UK stockists do ship worldwide, so make contact with them, see if they're one of the ones that do, and I'm sure they'll be able to get you these products to your door wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for watching today, and I apologise if I've waffled on. I apologise if I've sort of sent you to sleep, but I'm hoping I've given you some inspiration and introduced you to our wonderful new collections for September 2024. And of course, there'll be more collections coming soon, but this is certainly a lot to tease you with and hopefully inspire you with. And if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and tap the bell so you get notifications. And if you're not already, please come follow me on Jmaie Rodgers Crafts on my Facebook page, where you'll see lots of these and many more creations I've made with my collections being shared to hopefully inspire you further. And again, it's a great place to ask me questions if you have anything you'd like to know more about. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Bye for now.